I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse.
We're Cannabis School. Having cannabis-infused conversations
With everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
welcome to the Sesh.
Welcome back.
I'm not using that. Hey guys! So welcome back to another Sesh. It's been one hell of a month. We're still floating like turds, but we're getting there. And you know, a lot of this last month has been really...
We're still floating like turds.
Yeah, we're floating like turds. We're not making it yet, but you know, we've just like a lot of you, we have those struggles. We have our mental health struggles, we have our confidence struggles, we have our value struggles, and a lot of times we get so caught up in what we are and who we are and what we think we are, and we stop allowing ourselves to be human for a little bit. So that's, both of us have been doing that, and it's doing pretty cool.
Well, it's been interesting. You know, kind of our conversation this morning on the Happier Headspace episode. If you haven't, go check out Jesse in my Happier Headspace episode where I have him on the show. But it was, damn it, where was I going with that? Durban. So, yeah, it's got to go somewhere. Damn it. No.
No, so what I wanted to talk about was pretty cool. Medal of Honor winner smoked weed. This is awesome. And then we'll go
let's hear
into
it.
Right? So Peter Lemon, a Medal of Honor recipient, famously demonstrated extraordinary heroism during the Vietnam War while reportedly under the influence of marijuana. Stationed at a fire support base in Illingworth in South Vietnam, Lemon and his fellow soldiers relaxed with cannabis before bed, not expecting an attack. But in the early hours of April 1st of 1970, their base came under heavy assault by North Vietnamese forces. Despite being wounded and unarmed at times, Lemon held off a wave of attackers with machine guns, rifles, and eventually hand-to-hand combat when his weapons failed. He carried his fellow soldiers to safety, declined evacuation, and continued fighting until he finally passed out from exhaustion and his injuries. His actions earned him the Medal of Honor, underscoring his exceptional bravery under extreme circumstances. So one of the crazy things, like I had heard in that one, like he was throwing, like after the gun wouldn't work, he would throw the guns, and if that didn't work, he'd go hand to hand, he'd beat people to death with his hands. And I mean,
jeez,
but he was high.
That's even crazier to me,
right? Like, and
I mean, but when you're in that it's war.
Right.
Like, you're expecting that you have to do these things. Like,
yeah, but I mean, even that, like, go back to the Vikings in Berserker, which they would take psilocybin, copious amounts of and not even any regular psilocybin.
There's got to be some weird, crazy, jacked up.
No, they took mostly muscaria or
Amanita muscaria.
Amanita muscaria, that's the one. They would take a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Isn't that the one that you have to drink through, like, that's the one that you have to either ingest through, like, it being...
turned into a tea or something
like
that?
Different, because it's like, or the deer has to do it and you drink their urine. Like, there's other things, because it's a poison if you eat it on its own.
Yeah, they would do it through, what was it called? Reindeer.
Or something.
It was reindeer urine, because the reindeer would eat it.
Yep, and then you could drink that urine. There was... some chemist I had watched on the Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia episodes. I think it had one of those. And they were talking about, you know, that's how they experience it like that. Why? Isn't there another method to process that down without drinking the urine of an animal?
Well, they've seen over years too, man, like with the use of some type of psychedelic in rituals with alcohol. The Greeks were known to being able to use ergot, which is just...
Oh, it's a psychedelic, yeah.
Yeah, but it's something that happens to a livestock, to a crop, and the ergot gets into like
this is like bacteria.
Yeah, but it turns into a it's a fungus that will grow on wheat, and then they'll cook the bread, and the bread will actually give them the ergot. Wow. So then they get into that. like, there's a lot of things like early Americans used a lot of like psilocybin that the Native Americans would teach them about that, ergot as well.
Yeah.
A lot of religions would use that as well in the early 1800s here in the United States.
Oh, all over the East Coast. Yeah, there was a
big
lot of
time.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
well, it was the book, The Mormons and Mushrooms or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It goes into like court documents and stuff from the East Coast about
Totally.
Them using ergot and other.
And psilocybin.
That's what it reminded me of was when you said ergot, and I was like, oh, I've heard about that because they were like, oh yeah, this is used in like sacraments or other things, and
but it's been used for centuries.
Oh yeah,
centuries, man. And
it's been passed down for ages.
Well, they've even found it like in clay pots that are like super old, like Sumerian type pots.
Well, it's even like they think that cannabis was in the healing oil that Jesus used. So there's all these things of like these medicines and plants that have been around for thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of years that I'm sure humans, we've understood how to interact and use these for so long.
Well, dude, it was, this is random. This is super random, but have you ever watched? No, you haven't.
Probably could call.
Exactly. I'm just like, no.
You haven't seen this shit. Don't even worry.
But I'm always interested. One of my favorite video game series is Castlevania.
Okay, yeah.
Even though it's like a 2D side-scrolling, it's one of my favorites. Still is one of my favorite games. I still play it on my Switch. But there's a series on Netflix. The first series was awesome. There's like 4 seasons. Then they did a new one, and I couldn't get into it because it felt like fucking Pokemon.
What's it called?
It's called, it's just Castlevania. But the characters and everything in there, what it made me kind of go into there is that Dracula, or Vlad, I forgot his last name.
Putin. Vladimir Putin.
Motherfucker. But he meets this woman.
Okay.
And she's banging on his door telling him, you need to teach me how to do the things you do. Because he's been alive for so long that he knows medicines and science and metallurgy and advanced technology that the current humans he's living with.
Yeah.
Right. But he can live forever. But he hated humans. And this woman makes him think differently about humans, and he marries her. And she's like, I want you to see the world. I want you to see this beautiful world. I want you to travel. And he goes, I can travel wherever I want. And she goes, no, do it like a human. Experience it. That's what life is for. And he started to change his mind. And he became compassionate towards humans. And then the Catholic Church comes by, and she's a healer because she learned all of these sciences from him.
So a witch.
Yeah, she's a witch. And they burn her. And she tells him, please don't do this. You have no idea what will happen to you if you do this.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever.
So they burn her anyway.
Yeah, they burn her anyway. And then he just loses it.
Oh, yeah. Loses his shit.
Loses it.
Yep.
And it's a cool show, dude. But that would make me think about with plant medicines. Like, that's how far I was watching it. I was probably high. Wow. And I was like, that's how a lot of like it's not an individual. It's not a system. It's an idea. That's kind of the concept that I started thinking about with cannabis and why it's so bad. It's just an idea. The idea takes shape. Think about like a lot of the fake news that comes out from main media, and then it's proven wrong later on. And then you're like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
I believe that. And so it's so easy to believe an idea rather than the facts because it doesn't matter. Dude, how many people's lives have been destroyed because of a made up story?
Millions, billions, billions.
So that's why I feel like it's not regulatory or anything like that. It's the perception of people. The perception that people have that it's bad. It's a story they tell themselves before they ask questions.
Always. It's the narrative that's been in their head this whole time that predicates whatever you've said. So it's like, they come up to this with this predetermined narrative of like, this is this. So unless you can have like a real discussion and, really understanding who that person is, how they communicate, all of that. Oh, it's not on. Flip to the oil side at the bottom.
Okay.
So I don't know. With those, it'll probably be out in a sec.
Oh yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. We watched Emily and I were watching American Horror Story I don't know if you ever got into that at all.
Not yet.
But they have a season on covens, on like a witch coven. And I was just thinking about like, man, what was it that we were so, like, what were we so afraid of in those times? What was it that we were thinking these witches were doing? Or like, what was it that these people were doing? Why was it all of a sudden like they're witches? Like, was it really just the difference of paganism going out and Christianity coming in? Because when that happened was in 600 AD, but yet wasn't the Salem witch trials in that in like the 16, like in the 1800s, but like 14, like in the 1000, like the medieval times?
Honestly, it hasn't changed. I mean, if you look all over the world, especially large parts of Africa, Eurasia,
Dude,
there's
have witch hunts?
mass genocides of Christians, of Jews, like constantly. You talk about Africa, like Rwanda, like they were killing Christians.
There's always genocides and everywhere. There's always going to be hatred and, us and them. But are there still witch hunts? Like, do people still think witches, like,
well, here's a fun
fact. Is there
fact.
A fear around that?
Here's a fun fact. So when I worked for the state of Utah, I worked in mental health, and I worked with severely mentally ill people that are
you and me hung out all the time.
Right.
And then they let me out.
No. I mean, these people are there. They have nothing to lose. They're there. They're appointed by the state. They're legally there. They run a racket using Medicaid and Medicare to fund their operation. They pay their people horribly. But the thing is that when you are, where was I going with that?
Mental health.
Fuck. It was a point. What were we talking about before that?
Witches.
Witch, yes. So while working there during that time, and it's still believed that, do you know that a large percentage of the population of the United States, and they do survey this, there's an organization called NAMI.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Right? And they are super active, and they are always out there. These aren't like
left for witches?
No. What they do is they survey people, and what they find is a large percentage. Like at the time when I was working at the state hospital, this is in the early 2000s, polled, and they would do massive polls, NAMI would. A large percentage of people, the largest percentage, believed that mental illness was caused because of sin.
What?
Early times when
How long ago?
In the early 2000s.
Jesus, we are ignorant.
No. It's, you got to understand that it's not necessarily just ignorance. That an idea doesn't just stop with the person dying.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that the ignorance isn't there.
Hundreds, but
it can be broad scale ignorance.
Oh, exactly. But I mean, dude, it's the whole thing. Like, was it Good Friday? Like there were certain things. There was hell-worthy trespass in some religions where if you ate meat, you were committing a cardinal sin that could be punished by death.
Yeah, but like, how dated is that idea?
Well,
realistically,
the papacy was taken down by Napoleon. So he canceled the Catholic Church because they were trying to tell him he couldn't go to war. And he's like, fuck you, I do it anyways. And so he did. And he pretty much imprisoned them in near where they're at now in the Vatican. He's like, you have no choice here. And so the church has been fragmented multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
And then the papacy came back later on through a different avenue. And it was through money. But when it's exactly what you said, like ignorance is there, but it's a belief, and a belief isn't ignorance until they can accept it.
It's ignorance when they choose not to look at anything else.
But
that's when it's...
No, I totally agree. But that's from our perspective. From their perspective, they're right. And there's no way... talk about arguing with somebody who is so like, nope.
Well, it's like not even arguing. I've had discussions with my dad. And just questions. I'm like, okay, so here... And I'll ask him a question about like God or heaven or something. And he'll go down his idea of beliefs. And I'm like, no. You're not answering this question. This is the question I asked you. This is what I'm asking you to answer. And the problem is that he can't answer that because it doesn't exist within his frame of thinking. So he has to reframe it within there. And then he's like, well, this. I'm like, no, you're, again, not answering my question. You're going, because the idea to him, it's so outside of his idea of reality that he has to be right. There's no other reality. And it's like, but you're not even allowing your mind to think of this as a theory. Like,
No, and that's, I mean, a lot of that is,
it's ignorance. It's the idea of coming at something going, there is no other reality, no other possibility of reality, nothing outside of what I am thinking is.
well, and it's not necessarily the thing that I'm about to say, but it is a trait of that one that's a very narcissistic trait that people will have where I am right and you are wrong. Instead of looking at, just like you said, like, that's an interesting thought. Like, I want to learn more about that just to see where they're coming from, because that's where a lot of really good ideas come from. Like, none of the cool shit that we have today came from, like,
Thinking about the same things.
no, somebody just, I mean, I love going back to Henry Ford's thing. Like, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said, make me a faster horse.
Yep.
He created something different. It's just like, is Elon creating anything that's unique? Nope. That shit's been out for fucking years.
Yeah.
But you know what he did? He created a brand around it. And that's the cool thing, dude, man. And that's a religion that is throughout our world, is brands.
It's like Nike, it's like Tesla, it's like Apple.
Dude, it's like Eric Dahl.
Everything Nike. Yep.
Like when he was given a pair of shoes by a certain shoemaker, I will not say their name. Yeah, he was like,
I only wear Nike.
Can't touch those.
Well, so I mean, even on that line, like, so we had a friend over here the other day and we were talking and she was like, she's got an Android. And we're like, oh, well, I can just airdrop you these pictures. And I was like, oh, wait, no, you've got an Android. And she was like, yeah, I've had Android for like my whole life, so I don't want to switch to iPhone. I'm like, that's okay. Like, I understand. It's just easier. But, the Android ones are always like, well, there's so much more you can do, or this or that, or the specs are better. And I'm like, this is seamless. I've had Android and this. And I'm like, but you're also talking to the person who has like
Apple everything.
And I was like,
and you've had Apple for a long time.
Yeah, but I also designed and built Windows and like did all sorts of stuff there and loved that platform and was like anti-Apple until I started using it because I had to for a job. Too. And then I was like, I like this. And I started choosing my Mac over my Windows ones.
Yep.
And I was like, and then I started replacing my personal ones with Apple ones. And I just started realizing that there was nothing that I was doing that I couldn't do on a Mac. And it seemed to work more streamlined, had less issues, less buggy, less crap that I had to deal with, and way less bloatware.
Oh, dude, the one thing, though, I wish I never did? Suck my phone up to my laptop. That drives me fucking nuts. Because then the bing, and I'm writing a fucking Zoom call, bing, and I'm like,
bro, I'll teach you how to fix those things.
Well, thank you, sir, because I am like inept when it comes. I'm just like, what I love about it is exactly what you said. It's simplistic, it's easy. I don't.
All integrates. I've got my iPad,
the
recording phone, my actual phone, my Mac that I edit on. Like everything is.
It's all streamlined and it goes together really nicely. And that's the thing that I think about.
Tangents.
But here's that actually goes along with it because, as people can shift in concepts and ideas and products or whatever, it's always associated with a belief, and a brand is a belief. That's the way that I look at branding now in the marketing world, because I love the marketing world for the sense of, what makes things desirable, because if we were just utilitarian type people where it just has to function, we'd all wear beige clothes.
Right.
Fucking same color shoes, boxes for cars, houses would look just like boxes. Yeah. Like there would be
square boxes, no purpose of anything.
Well, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
What
food would all be the same. It would literally be like, here is your nutrients.
Yeah.
Whether it's a pill, a drink,
shake.
Yeah, a shake, something.
Some gelatinous glob.
Because there's no purpose to any of the flavor, to anything else.
Nope, it's just existence.
Yeah.
And that's sad because it's like, even a bee has its own existence. It has its own emotions and everything it's going through. Well, and somebody go, oh, those don't, that's the argument I love with people. They're like, some things have souls. The other ones are just fucking robots. And you're just like, oh, dude, like, look, if anything lives, then it's got to be a reflection. The way that I believe of what's coming next is it's another dimension. I believe that the soul, or whatever you want to call that, is the consciousness of our being, and our thought process and how unique we are, not one of us is the same. It's pretty crazy to look at that, because every single fucking frog down to the molecular level is different, but in their appearance, they're the same. Yeah. They have their own races, but they're all the same. But they don't, they fight and they quarrel even amongst themselves. It's just like humans. I find it fascinating that we're always so caught up in being right instead of saying, interesting.
Because I was thinking about that as these last couple days and doing Happier Headspace episodes and stuff. And I was like, instead of always feeling like you need to be right, if you're always learning, you will always have the ability to be right, because you're always going to go, is there new information that I'm not looking at here? Well, if I accept that information and put that into my knowledge and accept that maybe what I had previously known wasn't always correct, that maybe I can in fact be right, because I'm learning that whatever I had learned was wrong, but now I know what is right. Like, how is that? It's like when you're little and you're doing something, but you haven't been taught rules. I don't know it's right or wrong. I haven't been taught the boundaries of what is acceptable and what's not.
I think that some of these things are innate in us.
Some things, yes.
But other things, I mean, is it nurture or nature? It's usually nurture that starts to be able to shape how we interact. We learn by watching. That's like, with Rich, with us acting like, if you're a road rage person, I'm going to say us, like us, Brandon and I, but say you're always going off and you're screaming at people. Well, I mean,
I was never I never pulled out, got a new,
no, you've scared the shit out of me several times.
And I just mean, I'm not leaning out my window,
No, but you used to get really angry and yell. And I'm like yesterday, dude, I got frustrated because I dropped my kids off at school. And as I was trying to pull out, this woman's right in the middle and wouldn't let me pass because she wanted to go over there. And she was so in her mode. And I'm like, come on, you stupid bitch, fucking move. And I'm like, fuck it, whatever. And then right there and then I had to tell myself, I'm like, dude, it's okay if you got mad.
Yeah.
I can't walk around like a happy idiot all the time. And it's okay. But I just realized I was mad for that moment because it was an inconvenience at that time. But it's gone now.
Since that episode with Rich, I haven't gotten angry in the car. I have gone this motherfucker.
Yeah.
But that literally is how it comes out now.
Yeah.
And for me, in the car, that's a huge improvement.
Oh, that's a big upgrade.
Because I'm just this stupid motherfucker, look at what they're doing. And I just kind of shake my head at it, and I'm like, whatever. But it's that is a huge change for the car for me. But it was because realizing I had never thought about my reaction causing complex PTSD for unintentional trauma to them. And when he was and it really just put it into perspective of okay, how has my kids' lives gone so far? What has happened in my kids' lives? All right, well, he basically just told me that this action teaches them to be submissive to dominant male, to, basically, so if they're in a shitty relationship in that, it's going to teach my kids, my partner, whatever, to stay in that and submit to whoever that person is. So that teaches me that I am going to screw up my kids' futures because of that. That whatever relationships they have in the future will be screwed up because of that.
Yeah, but I mean, I heard
that can.
Well, but I mean, but here's the thing too, and this is a big you got to let that off of you. Our goal as parents, this is the best way I heard it said. I think is Andrew something or another. He's a ex-CIA guy, but he said the ultimate goal for parents is to help your kids be a little bit less fucked up than you.
Yeah.
Because that's all you really can do. Because there's going to be things that are ingrained in you. I know 100%. How you are. When you would say oh, your kids are still up and it's 9. I'm like, yeah. You're like, my kids are to bed, but I knew you grew up that way. And I'm just okay, cool. I mean.
Because we were always very structured and things were always at a certain time and it didn't exist outside of that. It wasn't an option.
Yeah. And I don't, we have hey, 10 o'clock's reasonable time you need to be in bed. And they're in bed, and they're cool. They get up on time. We're not like 6:00 motherfuckers and get around here and we're going to read scriptures. Like, we're not doing that.
Oh yeah, no,
And I know families like that. I know families that
my
are like,
family. Yeah, growing up,
yeah, it's
that
like,
was our family.
and I get it. They do that to be able to keep everybody inclusive. But what it did is pushed away a lot of people because they're like, this is intense. And I don't want to be that intense all the time.
It wasn't even intense. It was just like,
I saw it as
do
intense.
I believe this? Like, yeah, they talk about reading your scriptures every day. So technically, what we are doing is what the Mormon Church was telling us. So nothing we were doing was intense. It was just what they taught us to do.
Well, they gave suggestions because a lot of these members would say, well, how do we do this? How do we get our kids involved?
Or it's
and
like,
how do you with them every morning.
How do you get to, it was what they taught on the pulpit. You want to get your temple recommend? Well, you guys should be reading your scriptures every day. You should be doing this. Okay, so to do these things is what they're telling us.
Yeah. Well,
So
but at the same,
to live that.
But it goes both sides because there's two different sects within that church because of those reasons. And they came from a farming culture. If you think about it, that makes a lot of sense the way they do things. They've made a lot of changes within the last 10 years, and a lot of them. Oh, they
rebranded. They've done all sorts of stuff.
No, not just that. I'm talking like time-wise. And yeah, church cut down by an hour.
Yeah,
and then
true.
on top of that, they're thinking about even reducing it a little bit more. And a lot more openness of what they're trying to be able to do. Like,
I think they have to. In this time and era,
everybody
how
does.
else would they keep people at church? Like, how would anyone keep people at church?
Well, the way that you explain it there is only as a reward, which I feel bad because a lot of people have that perspective of, if I go to church and I do these things, I got to go to this magical kingdom with Romanesque pillars.
Because that's what they believe, yeah.
No, that's what they tell themselves because it's not what it's taught.
That's what they believe.
Right. That's what they believe around. And it's really sad because I go because I feel something for me.
You have a different belief than most Mormons that I've met.
Well, I appreciate that. But because it's for me. It's just for me. And I see all of them in competition for others.
It's like my dad now, since he was excommunicated, lost his temple recommend, and went through all of that. That was the hardest thing for him. But now his belief is way different. His belief is for him.
Yeah.
He sees a whole different connection or version of God and Jesus or whatever than he ever did before. And I love that for him because before he was so preachy, so like, this is this. And
because
I'm
it's like a guilt feeling all the time.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not how things work. That's not how thinking works. That's not how anything works. But it's been good to see that. And so your belief is way different than... I grew up here in that Mormon culture. Everyone that I know is like that. They are like that for the most part. So when I meet the few that aren't, it's like, fuck yeah, I love you guys. You are amazing people because I still had some of those in my ward growing up. They exist.
Yeah.
But they're not the majority here.
Well, the funny thing is that, if the belief of any kind of Christianity or religion, it's everybody is like harmonious and together.
Yeah.
But until then, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's them and us.
Always.
And what I do, like why I feel like I'm there is to be able to help them break it because I don't give a shit. Like, dude, some guy in church he was talking about, he's like, his daughter got this tattoo up and down.
And he was talking shit about it.
No, he wasn't talking shit about it. He was like, my daughter got these tattoos and I grew up learning, again, farm community, white,
tattoos
Christian.
Were bad people.
Yeah, dude, Mormons were segregated completely from the United States for a very long time.
Oh, yeah, they went... Well, they kind of had to.
They were trying to hunt him down. But
you can't practice polygamy in a country that's banning that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they left.
What they were doing at the time.
And but the after
they had to come really far out here. And so they were
they were completely isolated from this.
Was there any other Caucasian settlements this way, or were they the first ones?
Yeah, no, there were small ones around, but that's, the Lewis and Clark's expedition and where they went, like other people followed, but not in the mass amount like that.
That's what I was wondering. Like, is there any larger demographics that had gone like even up to like Seattle or I think really
those areas where they had more people over there anyways.
It might be in history.
Well, but Utah is not like back then. It's
Oh, well, Eskimos are, I think that that's like Native Americans, though. I'm trying to think of not Native Americans, but like not the indigenous people, but like the people who came across. Like, I wonder if there was ones, or maybe I guess that would be Orientals, who would have come from the Asiatic side over to
well,
like,
they found in settlements. They found like Viking settlements in Newfoundland, which is in Canada, and so
oh, but that's on the East Coast, right?
yeah, they found them on the
Yeah,
East
I could
Coast
see that.
and in China. They found even older stuff where they found like whale bone with an older Chinese written on it, like a really old.
Interesting.
And they found
China
that.
is nuts.
Dude, you know, like in California, they have archaeologists on hand for every construction job because they tend to find, depending on the areas, they tend to find massive deposits of animals and it like La Brea tar pits down there. Dude, they find shit all the time.
Yeah, we have stuff from that in Thanksgiving Point.
Did you ever see that one? Look it up. It's cool as shit. I know we bounced around a lot, but it's cool as shit. There was this dinosaur. It wasn't found too long ago, within a decade, and I think it landed in a tar pit, and it completely preserved
Everything.
the way it looked, down to the eyeballs
Whoa.
and the skin, and it was like one of those armored ones.
Mm-hmm.
You look them up. I mean, it's completely fossilized. It's just hardened.
That's cool.
But it was cool because it preserved it in the tar. It's like those people from Pompeii, like where they found it below them. They had to dig down, and then they would pour plaster into the area, and it would fill in the body cavity, that whole thing. So then when they dug it all out, they just kind of shaped it around these people.
Yeah.
And those are the last positions they were in when they died, which means they died instantly. That hot ash and the air, like they would have been cooked alive so fast, they wouldn't have been able to think
Can you
about it.
imagine?
I hope so. I hope I go that way.
I
That'd be
mean,
fast.
instantaneous, yeah. God,
Yeah, like
I hope
being
so.
there right at the point of a nuclear bomb dropping. You just like, yep. Like people don't think about that, right? But anyways, yeah, I think the whole thing on beliefs, that's the one thing that I've been coming to lately, is that it's not just respecting other beliefs, it's being open-minded to their beliefs and saying, okay, and it's not a picking and choosing and cherry picking, like a little bit of Buddhism here, a little bit of Christianity over here, a little bit of Mormonism here. And, you know,
it's their belief.
But the
know?
thing is that there's some really great things that can come from all of them.
Oh, yeah.
All of them. I mean, even the
They all
Third
have
Reich.
similar, like, idea. Yeah, it's true, though. Like, there's good, everything, most theories and ideas have some good in it. It's just that there's humans that come in usually, and then humans fuck it up. And then,
Well, yeah, but we are imperfect. We're imperfect, and we should expect those fuck ups. And
but then it's that need that we touched on, that need, or like, I am right. I am correct. So versus like, I have a theory or I have an idea. This is a theory. This is an idea.
well, and it goes the same. Like, you know, we as individuals within societies don't like to take ownership of our faults. And it's like now, like, I'm not going to go political here, but when you look at politics, one side blames the other. Oh, it's because of you. This is the reasons why.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is that the people, if they live in a place that has democratic policies,
Yeah.
because we're not a democracy.
No.
We've never been a democracy. And that's the funny thing. Go, oh, this is a democracy. No, it's not.
No.
It's a republic. It's been a republic since its founding.
I would love to see, instead of how we have, like you said, both sides just accusing and putting blame on the other, I would love to see both sides just take extreme ownership. This is the mess we are in. This is what we've done, and this is where we're going to go.
No, but I mean,
instead of like pointing fingers.
Here's the problem, though. The people don't want that. They want blame. They want that because the people are the ones who are in charge of that, and they don't take charge of it. They have allowed the government to continue to grow in the way it is because they don't want to do it, which means most people don't want to lead. It sucks. It's lonely at the top. It's not fun unless you're an egomaniac, and that's great. We need those people to do those things.
Yeah, Elon Musk has to do something.
Yeah, dude, I mean, even with him, he's looking at like the landscape. He's like, why would I even be involved in this? Why do I need to be involved in this? Like, it's and the good thing I've been seeing lately is that everybody has to be pushed to a certain point until change actually happens.
That's life though. We know that because we see that in everyone. How often is it that life has to get to a certain point before we leave the relationship, leave the job, before we start going to the gym, like change the diet, like something usually changes, and it's not usually something good, it's usually something bad. And then it's that bad change and it's like, fuck, I can't take this anymore because I feel like I've been making all of these concessions to like, oh well, it was just this, oh it was just this, oh well, it was just this. Well, have you stepped back to look at how many just this have we allowed?
Have you ever read the book The Obstacle is the Way?
I think once.
Ryan Holiday?
Maybe. If not, I need to.
He's a stoic guy.
Okay.
Stoicism. He teaches stoicism. Brilliant guy. But when he talks about that book, The Obstacle is the Way, that book actually changed a lot of my perspective on problem solving in my life, because he talked about all these different people throughout history, of course, going always into Marcus Aurelius. But he just talked about some of the people that we didn't think about, like George S. Patton, and some of the generals during, like he was talking about one general during the Civil War, and he's looking through his looking glass, and this cannonball comes flying across, hits his horse right by him. He doesn't even flinch. He just keeps watching. And then another general over there was taking a picture. And at that time, like, they would have a photographer, and the way that they would use light is they make these big panes of glass. And then they would send a kid up there to turn it to allow more light in. And the kid screwed up and broke the glass. And shards of glass are falling around this guy. And he just sits still. Doesn't even move because he's waiting. Because back then when you took a picture, you couldn't move for several minutes. So, I mean, the way, and the reason why I bring those up is that when you're faced with something that is absolutely horrifying or terrifying, you have a choice to be able to make. It's either to go in, I need to get the fuck out of here, or I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to face this no matter how small or how large.
Well, and they didn't react though.
No, didn't react.
It's the ability to, and this is, I think, where EQ and like that comes really in, is the ability to not react.
Yeah.
Like that alone is
very well said. Very well said. Because that is exactly what it is. It's to be able to not react. And that is more difficult than it sounds.
100%. I think about that all the time. Yesterday, even I was driving Addie and her friend, and it's like having twin Addies, and they were just so loud. And that literally was what popped in my head. And I was like, do I need to react? I just sat and I just, because that's how I grew up. I grew up with you. That is not okay. There is a reaction. There is a response.
Dude.
Instantaneous. Like
last night, my daughter, she was just really emotional. And she's getting close to age where her hormones are kicking in. And
yeah, that's a fun stage.
I only have one daughter.
Addie's all sorts of crampy and
yep. And but dude, like, it's funny, last night she was just so mad, and it was about like strawberries. And she asked my wife, she goes, hey, can you cut me up some strawberries? She goes, it's okay, you could do it. And then she goes, Dad, can you cut me up some strawberries? I'm like, of course you can cut yourself up some strawberries.
Yeah.
I was like, why not? Go ahead.
Yeah.
And she's just like, but I want you to do it. And I'm like, well, I want you to be a little bit more independent. So how about you do this one?
Yeah.
And she just lost it and started screaming. And I'm like, and then my son Max got a little frustrated. I'm like, hey, it's okay. Calm down. Sit down. It doesn't involve you. You don't need to be upset about it. And then she left for a second, came back. My wife had put these strawberries in a bowl for her, and she's like, you wash them and you cut them. And she comes over and she's just throwing shit around. I'm like, hey, calm down. And she goes, I hate you, and ran off. And my son tried to grab her. He goes, hey, you don't say that. And I said, it's okay, son. She's upset. She's saying something because she's upset. I don't take offense. We're okay. I don't need to take offense. And then he was like, oh, but because that's how I used to act. I would react. And now I don't react. I'm just like, meh. Just like when my car was getting towed. I'm like, weird. I mean, it didn't bother me the way that most people would feel, like that cold feeling of getting, when that shitty thing happens to you, the realization, the phone call,
Yeah.
and your body goes cold.
Feels like it drops to your pit of your stomach, your heart.
Yeah,
Like,
and your whole body goes
Yeah.
cold. And literally your blood pressure drops instantly because of that.
oh, yeah.
And I don't feel that anymore. Even when something bad happens, I just go, all right, what do I need to do? Need to get some money? All right, got to get some money. Got to find work. Got to do this. And so now it's a really cool thing, because this is something, dude, and we can leave it here. I was having this discussion with the guy that I met through one of these networking groups, and he just kind of like opened up to me, and he's like, hey man, you seem like the kind of guy that I could talk to about this, but I wanted to ask your opinion. And it was about how he was acting in his life and how he was acting with his fiance. And I said, well, you got to stop blaming her for how you feel, and you just need to own it, that it's you. And I said, look, there's a lot of things about you. He's a diamond. And I was like, everything has to be in order. Everything has to be clean. Everything has to be done on time. But guess what? For you, that list never goes away. You're always going to be in there. So I need to be aware of that. Your girl needs to be aware of that. And if she is, she's not going to take offense. I said, does it usually happen from that? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, man, how much you charge for this? I'm like, oh, I'm not charging you anything for this. I was like, just use this. But what I told him, because he was so wrapped up in how much money he makes and all this other stuff, and I said, hey, your worth is not your work. Your work is just work.
Yeah.
It's like going out, like, I'm a gardener, and somebody goes, yeah, that shit's for fucking pussies, dude. I grow inside. Like, motherfucker, like getting mad about that. Like, that's how I look at people who get mad at others for stupid shit. Like getting angry because, you like Meadow Gold and not...
That you have a preference different to theirs.
Yeah, BYU Creamery. That's the only one I could think of. Like BYU Creamery milk. Ours is so much more superior than yours. Look, it's fucking milk. And I think it's so strange.
I guess, I hate to say it. I mean, I don't, but like, don't yuck someone's yums.
Yeah, don't yuck someone's yums. From the great prophet Ruth.
Great prophet Ruth.
She says in Proverbs
6:9.
Yeah, 6:9. Don't yuck someone's yums. That's right after what the fuck are you looking at?
Yep, exactly.
She's so awesome. No, but it is that, man. And that's what I've loved about how well you've been doing. And even though during these times, like, I really like the rough times in a really sick way, and I don't like admitting that out loud, but man, do I get some shit done. And I can get it done quick, and I feel good. And
I mean, I sent 500 emails in 3 days.
I know.
So,
but that's the thing, like,
And I built a website, and
Well, we'll get an even better one working over there
Cannabis
soon.
Schools. I built a Happier Headspace.
Oh,
website.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I had done all of that shit, and yeah, it was quite productive.
Which I envy a lot. That's what I love about you, bro, because you're always about learning. You're always about expanding your consciousness, your mind, and your thoughts and ideas. And then what has been really cool is that you've let go of a lot of your older beliefs of judgment, and you've become less upset.
A dick?
No, just less angry, because I don't believe people are dicks. If you go back to what Rich said, I love what he says. He goes, sometimes it's just a good guy having a bad day. And so that's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as somebody doing something, like, I judge myself if I do something dickish, but now because I'm very self-aware, I'll be like, hey, sorry, that was a dick move. That was a dick move. I said something out of that because I said that to hurt you. I apologize. And they're like, oh, okay. Like that guy when I was driving. The fuck, man? You're in the middle of the fucking road.
Like,
hey, I know. I
I'm
saw
sorry.
it. I'm a dick. I'm sorry, dude. Oh, okay. Sat back in his car.
He's like, I'm sorry.
Big puffy dude with a giant chin. He's like, okay. And he gets in there, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm really bad. He goes, that's okay. I'm sorry. And it just came. I was like, oh, that's what I was laughing. But it really is that, man. What you said there was so profound, and anybody else could take it from there. Like, if you're smoking a bowl right now and you're fucking angry at somebody, just literally like look at it going, who's this hurting? It's upsetting me.
Yeah.
Just get past it.
Yeah, the ability to not respond has been probably what saved me so many times, because even in with I've got an ex-wife who likes to send hateful, vindictive messages for like out of the blue nowhere. When
To you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's been a while.
You
It's
should
been a
send her
while.
those memes that your mom always sends out.
Right,
The cat
Jesus
eyes.
things or something.
Dude, you should
But
totally do that. That'd be funny.
I had found that I had I had typed up essays of responses, and then I'm just like, I wouldn't send it, and I'd delete it, and then I'd type up a whole nother one, and then I'd
I've done that
delete
so
it,
many
and then I'd go
times.
on a walk, and I'd go smoke a bowl, and I'd realize I don't need to say anything, and I would leave it without saying anything, because I'm not giving her the time or the energy to even respond, because most of the time, my guess is because she's drunk and she's hurt for I don't even know why and she's reaching out to try and hurt me because she's feeling hurt.
Well, because she has the deepest connection to you. She's never had that connection with anybody else. And that's sad for her because it's frustrating if you think about it. And this is just a weird perspective. This is a high thought, and I'll leave it here and we'll button this up. But, every time she gets upset because life is not going the way, you know what she's upset about? I mean, this is just a hypothesis. She's upset because you're not there to be upset with her, because you are the one that she could go to and talk to about anything. And
It's
now
possible.
she can't do it anymore because she completely fractured, completely destroyed that. And it's just not worth rebuilding. And at the same time, when she's in her state of whatever, she's just probably like, fuck, I was so much happier when, and then she'll go back to that
The
time.
weird thing, and we'll end on this, is just the conversations with my children from her interactions with them. She lives in this world where life just happens to her.
Yep.
And she plays this horrible victim.
Yeah.
And it is really sad to see how that affects my kids.
Yeah, dude, that shit's contagious. It's worse than any flu you can get, and I feel for you on that, man, because it's not, I like us, like talking about, yelling at somebody while you're in the car and your kid's in the back, like you're being a dick, you're causing trauma. But imagine this slow Chinese drip torture trauma, and that's what that is, every second, every day.
Yeah.
And you're getting it, and the other person is oblivious.
Yeah, they don't even know or realize it's happening, and that's the worst part. Is it truly seems like she's oblivious to it, and I wonder, I wonder what it's going to be like in 10 years from now, and when both of our kids are adults, and what is that relationship like that they choose to have with her at that point, because it's not forced. They don't have to engage or interact with her.
Yeah.
And I was like, it sucks, because I worry for her that it's going to be like there's this Disney star who wrote a book about like why my mom should die, or I wish my mom was dead or something, because of how horrible her mom was.
Yeah, her mom was
and
horrible.
it just makes me think of like, is this going to be my kids when they are older? Is it going to be, and I want more for my kids. I want them to have a mom that's like really good for them. I do. And that seems like she's there, loves them, and interacts. Like, I want that for them. But I also want, like, I spent 10 years with that woman. I still want her to have good things in life.
Of course.
I want her to be happy. I don't want her to have shit all the time. So, it's even from that perspective, I look at it and I'm like, I feel for her, but I feel way more for my kids.
Of course. And, that's the thing. You're providing a home of love and acceptance. You're not giving in to things. You're helping them to realize they have boundaries, and that's good. They need those boundaries because they're not ready to go. It's like getting in a really fast car and just saying, hey, you're 16. Hope you're responsible. And like, no, you have to let them gradually learn over time, and that's good. And they'll remember that. And it is sad because, I think of anybody who, what's the most important thing? It's the thing I tell my kids, and and we'll leave here with this, guys, is the most important thing, the most valuable currency that you could ever have in your life is your connections with other people.
Your relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can focus on that one, you ever hungry? Don't worry, you'll have somebody to help you. You don't have money? Don't worry, you'll have somebody to help you.
Yeah.
And it's
you don't have a place to sleep. You have someone to help you.
And communities don't have to be because you have a belief. It's just because you're a good fucking human being and you want to help people. So, yeah.
Love you guys.
Love you.
See you next week.